The Earthra station was alive with movement and sound. Ships from hundreds of worlds docked in the enormous port, unloading passengers, goods, and strange, sparkling cargo. Beings of every shape and size walked the broad corridors and crowded streets. Some had wings, some had multiple limbs, some glowed faintly with energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. Among all of this life, most eyes focused on traders, merchants, or entertainers. And yet, tucked into a quieter corner of the station, one small figure moved almost unnoticed. Princess Lyria of the Zarathi was walking slowly, her long, silver-blue hair brushing her shoulders, a simple cloak covering her elegant frame. She had spent most of her life inside her family's palace, a series of chambers and halls that towered above the central city of the Zarathi homeworld. The palace had been protective, yes, but also isolating. She knew the world only as carefully guided lessons, rules, and servants who anticipated her every need. Here, in the middle of Earthra Station, she could finally breathe. She clutched a small satchel close to her chest, feeling the subtle vibrations of the station through her feet. There were hundreds of beings passing by, some brushing against her accidentally, others not even noticing her at all. Lyria did not mind. She liked the anonymity. No one expected anything from her here. No one expected her to make a mistake, to speak, or to be clever. She could simply watch. Most of all, she liked to observe humans. They were curious and bold, often speaking their minds in ways other species found strange. And today, a small group of humans had arrived at the station, disembarking from a sleek ship that gleamed like a shard of sunlight. Their movements were careful but confident, as if they belonged in the chaos yet were also separate from it. One human, taller than the others, stepped forward, scanning the crowd with sharp, intelligent eyes. He wore a simple suit of dark fabric, his hands relaxed at his sides. His presence was commanding, but not in a way that demanded attention. Lyria noticed him immediately, not because he stood out, but because he noticed her. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and Lyria felt something she had never experienced before. It was not fear nor embarrassment, but curiosity. She tilted her head slightly, trying to study him as he studied her. Most beings looked past her, but not this human. He seemed to see her, not just her appearance, but the small hesitations, the careful movements, the quiet intelligence in her eyes. He approached slowly, giving her space, moving as if inviting her rather than demanding attention. Lyria's heart beat faster. She had not spoken to a stranger in months, and the thought of doing so now was thrilling and terrifying at once. The crowd continued to flow around them, unaware of the small interaction taking place. "Hello," the human said finally, his voice calm and friendly. "Are you all right? The crowd can be tricky to navigate." She hesitated, unsure if it was proper to take it, but something in the human's eyes, something patient, kind, and unjudging, made her reach out. Her hand brushed his, and a small warmth spread through her chest. As he guided her through the crowd, Lyria felt the station change around her. It was no longer a maze of strangers and noise, but a living place full of possibilities. She noticed details she had never seen before. A merchant selling glowing fruits from a distant system, children laughing as they chased a small hovering drone, a pair of aliens negotiating the price of a rare gem with animated gestures. The human beside her seemed to notice these details too, pointing out small wonders with a soft laugh. "You see that?" he said, nodding toward a group of floating lights. "They're actually a kind of energy creature, harmless, but they like attention." The human's casual tone made it feel as though she could understand them, that she could be part of this world without fear of judgment. They walked together, slowly exploring the station. At each corner, Lyria felt herself becoming braver. She laughed quietly when the energy creatures brushed against her sleeve, and she gasped softly when a trader demonstrated a small device that projected miniature star systems into the air. The human beside her encouraged her without overwhelming her, asking questions, explaining things, and most importantly, listening. As they walked, Lyria began to speak in small, hesitant sentences. She told him about the places in the station that fascinated her, about the rare foods she wished she could try, about the stars she longed to see beyond the palace windows. The human, whose name she learned was Adrian, nodded and asked questions that made her think more deeply about her own experiences. He did not rush her, he did not mock her. He simply engaged with her as if her thoughts mattered, and to Lyria that was a revelation. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes. Time felt different when she was with him. At one point, they came to a quiet observation deck overlooking the bustling docking bays. Ships of all sizes were arriving and departing, and lights sparkled across the polished floors. Lyria leaned against the railing, mesmerized. "I never thought the world could be like this," she admitted quietly. "Even in my lessons, I never imagined it could feel alive." It was terrifying, but also exciting. For years, she had been hidden away, treated as fragile and timid. Yet here she was, walking among strangers, laughing, learning, and feeling her own strength grow. She felt something stir inside her, a quiet determination, a wish to explore more, to see more, and perhaps to be more. As the station lights shifted with the movement of ships, Adrian turned to her with a gentle expression. "There's a lot more to see," he said. "Do you want to see it with me?" With a deep breath, she nodded. "Yes," she whispered, "I want to see it." As they passed a group of merchants, a few of the Zarathi nobles glanced toward her, frowning slightly. Rumors of the hidden princess had never reached so far outside her palace, and yet here she was, walking among strangers, calm and confident. No one else in the station understood her presence, but Adrian did, and that was enough for her. They wandered through a marketplace filled with exotic foods and artifacts. Lyria reached out to touch a glowing crystal, her fingers brushing its smooth surface. Adrian explained its origin, a distant planet known for rare minerals that held energy in unique ways. Lyria marveled at the way humans seemed able to understand complex things intuitively. She realized that her own people had kept her sheltered, believing that she could not handle the world. Yet with Adrian, she was discovering a strength she did not know she possessed. By the time they reached a quiet garden area, small flowers glowing softly in the artificial sunlight, Lyria felt a sense of peace she had never experienced in the palace. She looked at Adrian and smiled, a real open smile. "You make the world feel safe," she said softly. "And you make it feel brighter," he replied, smiling back. They sat for a while in silence, watching the ships come and go, the aliens pass by, and the distant stars twinkle through the station's transparent ceiling. For the first time, Lyria felt as if she could belong somewhere outside the palace. Not just in a place, but with someone who saw her for who she truly was. When they finally stood to leave, the crowd seemed to part for them in a subtle way. Lyria felt a quiet thrill. She had moved through the station, not hiding, not shrinking, but walking with purpose. The simple gesture of taking Adrian's hand had opened a door she had not realized existed. As they exited toward another section of the station, Lyria glanced back at the path they had taken. For years, she had been unnoticed, a shadow in her own world. But now one simple human had seen her, and in seeing her had given her the courage to see herself. And as they walked forward together, Lyria knew that this was only the beginning of her journey. A journey that would take her beyond the station, beyond her fears, and perhaps beyond the stars themselves. The station corridors gradually gave way to the open decks of Earthra Station, where the hum of engines and the scent of recycled air filled the vast space. Lyria walked beside Adrian, her hand occasionally brushing against his as they navigated the busy walkways. She still felt a little nervous, but each step outside the palace strengthened a courage she had never known. The human's calm presence was like a gentle shield, helping her trust herself in a world she had been forbidden to explore. Adrian led her toward the observation area, a wide platform that extended near the edge of the station. Here, ships of all shapes and sizes moved like tiny fireflies against the vast black of space. Lyria gasped softly as she took in the sight. Unlike the carefully painted star maps she had studied in the palace, this view was alive. Ships blinked with navigation lights, distant planets reflected faint glows, and the stars shimmered like diamonds scattered across velvet. "It's beautiful," Lyria whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the station. "It is," Adrian agreed, his eyes scanning the horizon. "And it's only a small part of what's out there. The galaxy is bigger than most people realize. There are wonders beyond imagining and dangers too, but I think you'll handle it. You observed and reacted to this station better than most visitors. Courage isn't just fighting monsters or exploring new worlds. It's stepping forward when the world expects you to stay hidden." But this human, he treated her like she mattered, like her thoughts and choices were real and important. They wandered further, passing an area where floating drones delivered goods to shops and merchants. One small drone hovered too close to a vendor, nearly tipping over a display of sparkling crystals. Lyria instinctively reached out and tapped the drone, steadying it with a gentle touch. The vendor smiled and thanked her, surprised at the calm way she had handled the situation. Adrian glanced at her, his expression one of quiet admiration. "You see," he said softly, "you already know how to act, you just need to trust yourself." They passed through a market filled with exotic foods and gadgets, and Adrian explained each item's purpose. Some were simple tools for daily life, while others were complex devices from distant worlds, designed to manipulate energy, light, or sound in ways Lyria had never imagined. She listened intently, her curiosity growing with each new discovery. At one point, they came across a group of children playing near a fountain of shimmering liquid that floated in midair. Some were human, some alien, and all were laughing as they darted around. Lyria knelt slightly to watch them, fascinated by their carefree movements. Adrian crouched beside her, observing quietly. "Do you play like that when you're, not in the palace?" he asked. Lyria shook her head, smiling softly. I never had the chance. There were always lessons, always rules, but seeing them, it makes me wonder what I've missed." "You just have to let yourself." A group of smugglers had attempted to bypass customs, carrying crates of illegal goods. Shoppers scattered, some shouting, some trying to get out of the way. Lyria froze at first, unsure what to do, but Adrian grabbed her hand gently and led her toward the center of the disturbance. "Stay calm," he whispered. "Watch and then act." She observed the smugglers carefully, noting their movements and the way they tried to blend in with the crowd. Her mind raced, analyzing patterns she had studied in strategy lessons at the palace. Without thinking too much, she stepped forward and pointed toward an exit, drawing attention to one of the smugglers who had strayed too close to the crowd. The others followed instinctively, distracted by her decisive gesture. Adrian moved alongside her, quietly directing people to safety. Together, they defused the situation before security could even arrive. The smugglers fled when they realized the crowd was aware and watching. Shoppers murmured among themselves, amazed that someone so small and quiet had handled the situation. Lyria felt a flush of pride, though she said nothing, only letting Adrian give her a small nod of approval. "You see what you can do?" he asked when the commotion ended. Lyria's eyes widened. I did that." "That's more than most visitors can say." They continued their exploration, moving toward the docking area where ships were loading and unloading cargo. Adrian explained how different species used trade, negotiation, and ingenuity to survive and thrive. Lyria listened closely, fascinated by the sheer diversity of life and culture. She began to imagine herself as part of this galaxy, not as a hidden princess, but as someone who could make a difference. "You're imagining more than you should," Adrian said with a small chuckle, noticing the faraway look in her eyes. I can't help it," Lyria admitted, smiling shyly. "I've never seen anything like this. The galaxy, it feels alive in a way I didn't expect." Each new sight, each small interaction had taught her more than years of palace lessons. She had learned to trust her instincts, to notice details, and to act decisively when needed. She realized that courage was not about being fearless, it was about moving forward despite fear. As they walked, Adrian suggested a small detour to a quieter area of the station, one where few visitors went. It was a small garden dome with glowing plants and flowing streams of water, creating an oasis in the middle of the station. Lyria's eyes widened in delight. She had never seen such beauty created intentionally, outside of natural worlds she had read about. "This is incredible," she said softly, reaching out to touch a flower that shimmered in soft green light. "It's called a biolum garden," Adrian explained. "Humans and other species made it as a way to remind themselves of the beauty in life, a place to pause, reflect, and think." She realized she had never had a place like this in the palace, a place to think freely without expectations, where mistakes were not punished and curiosity was encouraged. She breathed deeply, feeling a sense of peace she had never known. Adrian followed, quietly observing her wonder. "You're learning quickly," he said, "not just about the world, but about yourself. You notice things, you react thoughtfully, and you care about the people and life around you. Those are qualities few possess." She realized that being shy did not mean being weak. It meant that when she chose to act, she could act with thought and purpose. As the station lights dimmed slightly to simulate night, Lyria and Adrian found a small bench overlooking the central docking bay. Ships glided in and out, lights reflecting across the polished floors. Lyria leaned back, her thoughts racing, feeling the excitement of discovery and the calm of understanding herself a little better. "You make this world feel possible," she said quietly. "And you make it brighter," Adrian replied with a warm smile. For a long moment they sat in silence, simply observing. The station buzzed with life, but Lyria no longer felt invisible. She felt seen, respected, and encouraged to grow. For the first time, she imagined that she could be more than a hidden princess. She could explore, learn, and even lead. As they stood to leave the garden, Adrian offered his hand once more. Lyria took it without hesitation. They walked forward together, leaving behind the shadows of isolation and stepping fully into a world alive with possibilities. Each step was a small victory, a lesson in courage, and a promise of adventures yet to come. Lyria felt a spark inside her that would not be extinguished. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders, challenges, and mysteries. And for the first time, she knew she could face it. Not alone, but with someone who saw her, encouraged her, and believed in her potential. The journey had only just begun. The intergalactic ball was held in a massive chamber at the heart of Earthra Station, its high ceiling curving like the shell of a giant creature, lit with soft golden light that reflected off thousands of floating crystal chandeliers. Delegates from dozens of worlds mingled, their gowns and uniforms a kaleidoscope of colors and designs. Music floated through the air, a mixture of alien harmonies and human instruments, creating a melody that was unfamiliar yet comforting. Lyria stepped into the chamber with Adrian at her side. She felt her heart beat faster, her nerves tingling. The palace lessons she had endured for years had prepared her for etiquette, but not for this. So many eyes, so many beings, so many expectations. She clutched her cloak slightly, wishing she could shrink into the shadows. Adrian noticed and squeezed her hand gently. "Remember what I said," he whispered. "Step forward, notice, observe, and trust yourself. You've handled more than this before." To her surprise, some glanced at her briefly, others not at all, and a few paused, intrigued by her quiet presence. She realized that blending in was no longer necessary. She could simply be herself. The music shifted, a light waltz that began to draw the guests onto the polished floor. Adrian guided Lyria toward the center, where humans and aliens danced together in elegant patterns. Lyria hesitated, unsure if she should join. Her feet were stiff from years of formal training, not actual movement. "Just follow me," Adrian said with a smile. "Feel the music, not the rules." The movement felt strange at first, but soon she discovered a subtle grace in her body, a harmony she hadn't realized she possessed. For the first time, she was moving for herself, not for lessons, not for expectations. The crowd seemed to fade around her, leaving only the music and her own growing confidence. As the dance continued, Lyria noticed a group of delegates in conversation. They were discussing trade routes, mineral resources, and political alliances. Most of them were skilled at the subtle art of diplomacy, their gestures precise, their words carefully chosen. Lyria listened quietly, absorbing every detail, understanding more than she expected. One elder of the Zarathi noticed her for the first time, frowning at her presence. "That is our princess," he whispered to a colleague. "Why is she here wandering among strangers? She should remain in the palace, safe and unseen." But as she observed the delegates, she realized that her knowledge, her observations, and her instincts could serve a greater purpose. She could act without arrogance, influence without shouting, and guide without commanding. Suddenly, a disagreement arose between two delegates. A human representative and a member of the Crassian species argued over the distribution of a rare energy resource. Voices rose and the crowd began to murmur uneasily. Adrian glanced at Lyria. "Think you can help?" he asked softly. Lyria hesitated, then stepped forward. She had studied diplomacy at the palace, but she had never applied it in a real-world situation like this. She focused on the words of each delegate, the subtle gestures, the points of tension. "If I may," she began, her voice soft but clear, "perhaps we can consider a solution that balances both sides. The energy could be divided based on current needs and future projections, with a neutral council overseeing its use." Lyria took a deep breath and continued, explaining her reasoning with simple, logical steps. She did not boast or demand attention. She merely presented a plan that respected the interests of both parties. Adrian's eyes widened in admiration. Lyria had not just spoken, she had commanded attention with her intelligence and clarity. Slowly, one of the delegates nodded, then another, until the disagreement was diffused. Murmurs of approval spread through the chamber. Lyria felt a surge of confidence. She was not invisible. She was capable. The elder Zarathi, who had earlier frowned, now watched her closely, his expression softening. He could no longer dismiss her as timid or shy. Here was a princess who thought, observed, and acted with wisdom beyond her years. After the dispute, Adrian led Lyria toward a balcony overlooking the city beneath the station. The night lights twinkled like stars, mirroring the real ones above. Lyria leaned on the railing, absorbing the calm after the tension. You did well, Adrian said. More than well, you impressed everyone, including the ones who didn't expect much from you. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges she could not yet imagine. She realized that while today she had succeeded, tomorrow could present obstacles far beyond what she had faced. Her thoughts were interrupted by a messenger droid delivering a small note. Adrian took it and handed it to her. Lyria opened it cautiously. It was an invitation from a prominent Interstellar Council member, requesting her presence at a private discussion regarding future alliances. Adrian raised an eyebrow. This is good, but it also means they've noticed you. People are beginning to understand that you're not just a shy princess, they're realizing you can influence events. The idea of being noticed so widely was daunting, yet a strange excitement coursed through her. She had always been hidden, overlooked, underestimated. Now she had a chance to show that even someone quiet, even someone who seemed small, could make a difference. They spent the next hour mingling with delegates, observing their interactions and quietly learning more about the political dynamics of the galaxy. Lyria noticed how subtle gestures, careful words, and thoughtful listening could alter outcomes. She began to see the importance of diplomacy, not as a set of rules to memorize, but as a living art requiring empathy, intelligence, and courage. During a brief pause near the refreshments, a young alien approached her, curious and respectful. "You handled that argument well," he said, his eyes wide with admiration. "I did not expect the Zarathi princess to speak so clearly." It was wise. Lyria found herself on the balcony again, gazing out at the distant planets visible through the station's transparent walls. Adrian joined her, silent for a moment, letting the sounds of the galaxy wash over them. "You've grown today," Adrian said finally. "Not just in confidence, but in understanding. You can handle more than you think." "I still have so much to learn, but I see now that I can face it. I don't have to hide anymore." A delegate had accidentally insulted another species, causing a ripple of tension to spread across the room. Lyria's attention sharpened. She stepped forward, assessing the situation. Using the calm voice she had discovered within herself, she intervened, suggesting a small gesture of respect that eased the tension immediately. The delegates nodded, murmuring approval. Once again, she had acted with quiet intelligence, influencing events without asserting dominance or arrogance. Adrian watched in quiet admiration. Each time Lyria acted, she grew more confident. She was learning that courage was not loud. It was subtle, deliberate, and thoughtful. As the ball drew to a close, delegates began to depart, exchanging farewells and promises of future cooperation. Lyria and Adrian lingered near the exit, watching the last of the ships glide away into the darkness of space. "You've done more tonight than many leaders do in their entire lives," Adrian said softly, and the galaxy noticed. She had stepped beyond her comfort zone, faced challenges, and discovered strength she had never known. Tomorrow would bring more tests, more opportunities, and perhaps more dangers, yet she no longer felt afraid. She was ready to face whatever came next. As they walked back toward their quarters, hand in hand, Lyria realized something profound. Courage was contagious. By taking one small step outside the shadows, she had begun to change not only herself but also the world around her. The galaxy was vast, full of life, challenges, and wonders, and she had begun to claim her place in it, not as a timid princess, but as a young leader capable of thinking, acting, and inspiring others. The intergalactic ball had been only the beginning. Lyria knew that greater adventures, tests of courage, and opportunities to lead awaited her, and she would face them, not hidden in the shadows, but stepping forward, confident and ready. For the first time, she truly felt seen, not just by Adrian, but by the galaxy itself. The sun of Earthra station had begun its slow descent, casting long shadows over the landing docks. Lyria walked beside Adrian, her steps steady and sure, yet her mind was alert. The events of the intergalactic ball had given her confidence, but she knew that attention brought both opportunity and danger. Some had noticed her wisdom and courage, and not all were pleased. Adrian had warned her before they left the ball. "Not everyone will welcome your growing influence," he said. "There will be those who see you as a threat simply because you are new to power. They may try to manipulate or intimidate you. Stay aware." That evening, as they returned to the quieter quarters of the station, a messenger droid approached, carrying a sealed envelope marked with the emblem of a distant faction. Adrian intercepted it before Lyria could open it. "This isn't friendly," he said, examining the seal. "It's from a faction known to test newcomers harshly. They'll try to challenge you, to see if you can handle situations under pressure. We need to be cautious." The letter was polite in words but sharp in intent, a clear trap meant to test her intelligence, courage, and resolve. Her pulse quickened. The station was quiet now, the usual hum of activity muted by the late hour. She looked at Adrian, uncertainty in her eyes. I don't know if I should go, she whispered. Adrian placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. You've faced challenges before, Lyria. You've handled crowds, diplomacy, and subtle threats. This is another step. I'll be nearby watching, but you must lead the way. Trust yourself. Lyria felt every heartbeat, every step measured and deliberate. When they arrived, the docking bay was empty, save for a few cargo containers stacked high. The distant hum of engines and the occasional flicker of lights were the only sounds. Lyria felt the weight of the challenge pressing down on her. She knew this was a test not just of strength, but of intelligence and composure. Suddenly, movement caught her eye. Figures emerged from behind the cargo containers, their intentions clear. The rival faction had set a trap. Adrian stood beside her, calm and ready, but Lyria knew she had to act. She remembered the lessons from the palace, combined with the experiences she had gained with Adrian: observation, patience, and decisive action. She analyzed the figures carefully, their movements, their gestures, their formation. They were skilled but predictable in their patterns. "I'll create a distraction," Adrian whispered. "Follow my lead." The figures moved toward him, assuming he was the primary target. Lyria moved in the opposite direction, using the shadows to her advantage. She positioned herself strategically, ready to guide the situation to a resolution. One of the faction members lunged toward Adrian, but Lyria acted swiftly. She tripped a small container, sending it sliding toward the intruder. The figure stumbled, losing balance, and Lyria seized the moment to intervene again, guiding another member away with precise movements. She did not fight recklessly. Each action was calculated, her mind mapping the consequences of every step. Adrian watched, impressed. Lyria was not merely reacting. She was leading, using her instincts, intelligence, and calm presence to control the situation. The rival faction realized quickly that they had underestimated her. Their initial confidence faltered as they faced a princess who refused to be intimidated, who could act decisively under pressure. The confrontation escalated slightly as more figures emerged, but Lyria remained focused. She guided Adrian and herself through the maze of containers, avoiding ambush points and using the environment to their advantage. Her mind worked quickly, predicting the intruders' movements and adjusting strategies in real time. "Follow me," she instructed Adrian, her voice steady. "We can trap them near the exit." Together, they maneuvered the group into a narrow corridor where the intruders could not surround them. Lyria used her knowledge of spatial patterns and the docking bay layout to create a bottleneck. The rival faction members found themselves trapped, confused, and forced to retreat. It was over before it had truly begun. The intruders, realizing their plan had failed, withdrew silently, leaving Lyria and Adrian standing in the dim light of the docking bay. Lyria's chest heaved, not from fear, but from the realization of her own strength. She had faced danger and emerged not only unscathed, but victorious through strategy and calm judgment. Adrian placed a hand on her shoulder, smiling. "That was incredible," he said. "You handled it perfectly, not just courage, but intelligence, foresight, and composure. You've grown beyond what even I expected." She was more than a shy princess. She was a capable leader in her own right. As they walked back toward the main station, Lyria's thoughts raced. She had faced a direct challenge from a faction that sought to test and undermine her. She had succeeded, yet she knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was full of opportunities, but also threats. Each choice, each action had consequences. And she was ready to meet them head-on. Adrian stayed close, guiding her gently through the quiet corridors. "You'll face more challenges," he said. "But now you know you can handle them. You don't need to hide, you just need to trust yourself." Each step she had taken outside the palace, each decision she had made, each action she had taken in the docking bay, all of it had led to this moment. She felt a quiet determination, a fire within that refused to be dimmed. The next morning, Lyria rose early, eager to explore the station again. She walked with Adrian to a nearby training area where beings from multiple species practiced various skills, combat techniques, tactical simulations, and problem-solving exercises. Lyria observed quietly, learning from each demonstration, noting strategies, and imagining how she could apply them in real situations. Adrian watched her closely. "You're learning quickly," he said. "Not just about skills, but about yourself. You notice patterns, you adapt, and you think ahead. That's rare, even among the most experienced leaders." Each challenge she faced strengthened her confidence and her resolve. Later, they returned to the station's observation deck. Ships moved in and out with the precision of a living clock, each pilot aware of the other's presence. Lyria studied the movements, noting how small adjustments prevented collisions and ensured smooth navigation. She realized that leadership, much like piloting a ship, required constant awareness, adaptability, and foresight. "You're thinking ahead," Adrian remarked, noticing her intense focus. "That's exactly what leaders need. Anticipation and understanding make all the difference. I just have to be aware, careful, and brave." She read the message, her mind racing with plans and possibilities. She understood that each decision she made could affect thousands, even millions, across the galaxy, and she was ready to meet the responsibility. That evening, Lyria and Adrian sat quietly, reviewing maps, trade data, and diplomatic reports. Lyria's confidence had grown, but she remained thoughtful, analyzing every angle and considering consequences. Adrian offered guidance when needed, but Lyria realized that her own judgment had become sharp, capable of independent thought and decisive action. "You've changed," Adrian said softly, "not just in confidence, but in your understanding of the galaxy. You're ready to take on more than you ever imagined." The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of opportunities and dangers alike. Yet for the first time, Lyria felt ready. She had the courage to face challenges, the intelligence to solve problems, and the determination to step forward when the world expected her to hide. And as she looked out at the stars beyond the station, Lyria realized that she was no longer alone. With Adrian by her side, she could explore, learn, and grow into the leader she was destined to become. The galaxy awaited, and she was ready to meet it head-on. The sun rose over Earthra Station, casting long beams of light across the docking bays and corridors. Lyria stood at the edge of her quarters, looking out at the bustling station. The events of the past days had changed her profoundly. She had walked unnoticed, discovered her courage, faced challenges, and proven herself capable of handling unexpected dangers. Now a new day brought a new responsibility, one that would define her future. Adrian stood beside her, quiet and patient, his presence a steady reassurance. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. Lyria turned to him, her eyes reflecting determination. "I think I am. I've learned more about myself than I ever imagined. I know now that I can step forward and make a difference." Lyria adjusted her cloak and walked beside Adrian, her steps steady and confident. As they entered the grand hall, Lyria felt the weight of attention upon her. Delegates from dozens of species had gathered, some with curiosity, some with skepticism. Whispers followed her as she moved through the crowd, but this time she did not shrink. She held her head high, meeting eyes, acknowledging nods, and returning smiles. She was no longer invisible. The council chambers were vast, circular, with a high domed ceiling that reflected the light in a shimmering pattern. Lyria took her place at the center, where representatives turned toward her, waiting. She could feel the energy in the room, the anticipation, and even a hint of challenge in some gazes. She took a deep breath and let her mind clear, focusing on what she had learned: observation, intelligence, courage, and calm decisiveness. The first topic was a trade dispute between two planetary systems. Lyria listened carefully, noting the points of tension and the subtle gestures of the delegates. Drawing on her previous experiences, she proposed a solution that balanced both sides, incorporating neutral oversight and mutual benefit. Her explanation was clear, concise, and logical. The delegates were impressed. Murmurs of approval spread across the chamber. Some were surprised that a young, previously shy princess could speak with such authority and wisdom. Others leaned forward, listening intently, eager to understand her reasoning. Adrian watched from the side, quietly proud of her growth. Lyria continued to address the council, offering insights into resource management, strategic alliances, and conflict resolution. She spoke not from a place of arrogance, but from observation and intelligence. Each point she made carried weight, and slowly the council began to recognize her not just as a princess, but as a capable leader. After hours of discussion, the council adjourned. Delegates approached Lyria, some offering congratulations, others seeking her advice, and a few simply nodding in respect. She realized that she had earned their acknowledgement, not through title alone, but through action, intelligence, and courage. Adrian guided her to a quieter balcony overlooking the station city. Lyria leaned against the railing, taking a moment to breathe. "I didn't know it would feel like this," she admitted softly. "To be seen, to be respected, it's overwhelming." She realized that true leadership was not just about rules or protocol. It was about courage, intelligence, and the ability to inspire others. Later, Lyria received a message from her family, congratulating her on her success. They had observed her growth from afar, noting her bravery, intelligence, and the respect she had earned. For the first time, Lyria felt that she was not just a princess hidden in the palace, but someone capable of shaping the future of her people. Adrian suggested they take a brief walk through the station gardens before dinner. The soft light of artificial sunlight reflected off the glowing plants, casting a serene atmosphere. Lyria moved with ease, her confidence evident in every step. She reached out to touch a flower, smiling as it responded with a gentle pulse of light. "You've changed," Adrian said quietly, "not just in courage, but in understanding the galaxy and your place within it. I can influence without demanding and guide without forcing. That is strength." This was a chance to celebrate alliances, strengthen relationships, and demonstrate her growing role in galactic affairs. As Lyria entered the hall, she noticed the subtle shift in atmosphere. Delegates who had previously ignored her now watched with curiosity and respect. She walked gracefully, acknowledging greetings, returning smiles, and maintaining an air of calm confidence. Adrian remained at her side, offering quiet support. The host of the gathering approached, extending a hand in welcome. "Princess Lyria," he said warmly, "we have heard much of your wisdom and courage. It is an honor to have you here." "It is my honor to learn and contribute." During a moment of pause, a delegate approached with a delicate question regarding energy resources in a neighboring system. Lyria responded thoughtfully, drawing on her previous experiences and knowledge. Her answer was precise, fair, and practical. The delegate nodded appreciatively, clearly impressed. Others nearby took note, whispering among themselves about the young princess who had become a capable advisor. Later, as the gathering concluded, Adrian and Lyria stepped onto a balcony overlooking the vast city beneath the station. Lights shimmered across the polished surfaces, reflecting the beauty and complexity of life within the station. Lyria felt a sense of accomplishment, tempered with awareness that greater challenges awaited. "You've done more than I ever imagined," Adrian said softly. "You've earned respect, influence, and the ability to guide others, and you did it without losing yourself. It's steady, thoughtful, and courageous. I can lead not by fear, but by understanding and care." She attended meetings, offered advice, and participated in negotiations. Each day, her confidence grew, as did the recognition she received. She was no longer simply the shy princess who had once walked unnoticed. She was a young leader capable of shaping the galaxy with intelligence, courage, and compassion. One afternoon, Adrian and Lyria visited a nearby starship dock, observing ships preparing for exploration and trade missions. Lyria watched intently as pilots coordinated departures, noting the precision and cooperation required for safe navigation. She understood now that leadership extended beyond politics and diplomacy. It included understanding the world, its systems, and the people who made it function. "You see the galaxy differently now," Adrian said. "Not as a place to hide from, but as a place to engage with, learn from, and improve. That perspective will make you a remarkable leader." Leadership is responsibility, awareness, and courage, and it is influence. I can guide not by fear, but by knowledge and care. She was invited to speak at assemblies, to advise on strategic matters, and to participate in initiatives that shaped the future of multiple worlds. Each opportunity tested her intellect, judgment, and courage, but she faced them all with the poise and insight she had developed through her experiences with Adrian and the challenges she had overcome. One evening, as the station lights reflected across the polished surfaces of the corridors, Lyria and Adrian walked together toward a quiet garden area. The soft glow of bioluminescent plants illuminated their path, creating a serene atmosphere. Lyria paused to watch the gentle sway of flowers, taking a deep breath. "I've come a long way," she said softly. "From hiding in the shadows to standing here, engaging with the galaxy and influencing change. I never imagined I could feel this confident, this capable. The galaxy has recognized your worth, and so have I." As they looked out over the city, Lyria realized that the galaxy was full of wonders, challenges, and opportunities. She was ready to embrace them all, not as a timid princess, but as a leader, a guide, and an inspiration. And with Adrian by her side, she knew that no obstacle was too great, no challenge too daunting, and no dream too distant. The galaxy awaited, vast and uncharted, full of life and possibility. Lyria took a deep breath, feeling the wind of opportunity brush against her face. She had found her courage, her voice, and her purpose. The shy princess who had once walked unnoticed had become a confident, capable, and inspiring leader. Together, she and Adrian stepped forward, hand in hand, ready to explore, to guide, and to shape the future. The stars above twinkled as if in approval, reflecting the endless possibilities of the galaxy and the boundless potential of a young princess who had finally found her place among them. Lyria smiled, looking at the vast expanse before her. This was her world, her galaxy, and her destiny. And she would meet it with courage, wisdom, and heart, ready to inspire all who crossed her path. The shy princess had stepped into her light, and the galaxy would never forget her name.